Okay, so today, last session, we talked about the problems, the cause of our suffering, as the Krishna explained, that we get illusioned by these objects of pleasure. Dhyato vishyam punsa sangateshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodh abhijayate krodh bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vibram smriti banshad buddhinasha pranashyati. So objects of pleasure, we get mesmerized by them and they attract us. And then eventually we start dancing like a cobra, dancing on the tunes of the flute player. And that's what becomes us. And we keep on dancing till we perish. What is the last step before we perish? Buddhinasha pranashyati. Buddhi is the intellect. Intellect is we all are born with, and we all have intellect, but our intellect gets destroyed by these objects of the pleasure. It doesn't matter what objects we are running after. Whole sansar is full of objects of pleasures, whether it is physical objects, it could be the objects of addictions, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, food, it doesn't matter, or something that is subtle, like a fame, recognition. You want people to recognize you. You want to be famous. You want to look better than somebody else. And of course, money and you name it, the whole sansar is loaded with physical and not so physical objects of pleasure after which we keep on running. And this running itself really makes us mesmerized towards these objects. So we forget the intellect, and these objects ultimately destroy our intellect. And we talked about Bahya like our body, arms and legs and our five senses. And we have Antakaran, we have ego, we have mind, we have a chit, and then we have this intellect, the buddhi. But the buddhi is not ours. Buddhi comes from higher. It is a part of the Vijnanmay Kosh, which is the outermost layer of the Vijnanmay Kosh is the intellect. So it's a gift of consciousness, but we waste it. Being that it's the right outer edge of the Vijnanmay Kosh, it's available to us. Beyond that is, of course, the bliss. It starts from intellect, ends up in the bliss. We don't have the bliss available until we really work for it and go further. But intellect is our key to rise higher towards the ultimate bliss sheet. But we lose that intellect because we're running after the objects. Why are we running after the objects? Because we think there is a pleasure in these objects. And we never realize that the pleasure is not built into these objects of pleasure. And if you ask somebody, and they will be surprised, they say, well, I drink Heineken and I enjoyed it. What's wrong with that? I think the pleasure is in the Heineken, but then everybody should be having the same pleasure. They don't. Only if you have a desire for it, then you get a pleasure. So it's all proportional to it. So it's your desire which generates the pleasure in the objects, because you have a set mind created with the desire for that object. And how do we get anger towards something? We wanted something out of something. We don't get it, so we get angry. So objects of pleasure and objects of suffering are basically direct result of our innate desires. But we never have time for all these things. We never think about all these things. And because we are mesmerized by these objects of pleasure. And that's why Krishna had beautifully described in that second chapter that all these objects of pleasures are the cause of the loss of your intellect. Intellect is your discriminating power, one that decides what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, which way to go. All these things get lost and we get drifted away. Intellect is like the central pillar that holds us down, but it doesn't exist since we get carried away into these objects of pleasure. And how do we really realize that objects of pleasure takes the intellect away? You look at a junkie who is doing drugs. We don't do the drugs. So you look at him and you feel sorry that, okay, well, poor guy, he cannot even make a decision what to do in life. The drugs have taken over. Right. In his case, yes, that is true. But in that particular case, you ask him, for him, that is life. That is the most important thing in the world. So we may not be, so whoever is not into drugs will always look at somebody who is in drugs as losing his intellect. So in that particular field, we have maintained our intellect that yes, we are not going to do the drugs because it's not good and we are not going to do it, period. So your intellect is reserved. But then eating wrong foods, running after fame, running after recognition, more money, more this object, more that object, every single object that we attach our attention to, our awareness to, it is robbing us of our intellect. And that's how when we become without intellect, we don't have a central pillar to hold us down, and we are swinging in sansar. And how are we swinging? Swinging is the Krishna had described yoga kshema. Yoga means all the efforts that you spend to reach to an object, and kshema is all the sufferings that come after attachment to that object. So that describes whole life for most of the people. When we are born, we start running after objects of pleasures. As soon as we have chance, we get older and we have physical strength and all those things. But while running, we think that objects are gonna give us the pleasure, and we keep on running and running. It's just like a mirage in the desert. We never really reach there. It just gives us an illusion. And that's why they call sansar is nothing but like a dream. You keep running, but it never ends. It keeps on going. And this, we don't get upset when we get the objects of pleasure. We are happy. And they say, what's wrong with this life? I have everything I wanted. And people who don't get what they wanted, they blame it that, okay, we don't have pleasure because we didn't get what we wanted. Right. But nobody's asking that running itself is suffering. Whether you're running for the objects of pleasure or you're running away from the objects that causes you suffering. So either way, running itself has to stop. But that nobody is asking, that running itself is suffering, but we don't have that much intellect left. So now today we're gonna come to some solution offered by Nachiketa. There is a beautiful book, Katha Upanishad. In that, the central character is that of Nachiketa, and he has given us, because he did so much penance, and the Lord Death pleased on him, and he gave a beautiful solution how to deal with this problem in our day-to-day life. And ultimately, it's your day-to-day life which is going to teach you the right way, but only if you develop your intellect, if you pause a little bit and understand the whole mechanism that the problem is within me. The problem is not outside. And only there your inner journey starts. So the Katha Upanishad has a beautiful story of a Nachiketa who was a Brahmin boy, like 8-9-year-old, living in a Brahmin house, and his father was conducting a yagna where he was donating several objects to the poor people, and which was a part of the offering of the yagna. So then the Nachiketa was old enough to understand that one of the things he was giving out was the cows, which were very old. They had no teeth left. They were pretty much not able to give any milk. So he was wondering, he was smart enough to understand that this kind of cows are going to be nothing but a burden for the poor family who will have to sustain the cow, because in those days, nobody killed the cows. And yet they won't get any milk, because if the cow doesn't eat the grass, she won't give the milk, and it will be a big burden. So he was kind of questioning. So he asked his father, he said, why are you giving out this? For what? What is the purpose of this? So the father gets angry. And so he says that I am also your objects. I am also part of your loved ones. Are you going to give me also away to something else or someone else? So father gets angry. He was not used to getting questioned. So he throws him out. He says, yes, I'm going to give you away to the Lord of Death, Yamraj. So he's kicked out of the house. And Nachiketa says, okay, if you're giving me to the Lord of Death, I'm going to do the penance for him. So he goes into the jungle. He does the penance for 3 days without eating and drinking. He keeps just standing there waiting for Yamraj. Yamraj apparently had gone away for something, and then he returns. He realizes that this kid is standing at his doorsteps. And so he gets pleased and he says, okay, I'm going to give you whatever you want. And there are several things that comes along the way. But the thing that is the most important thing to us is us, because he asks, I want to know the secret of life. So Yamraj says that you are so young, you cannot understand all these things. Why do you want to learn the secret of life? You won't even be able to get any out of it. But the kid insists. He says, no, you told me that you will grant me the wish. So the first wish he asked for is the peace for his father. Even though he was kicked out of the house, he still had a lot of respect for his father. So he asked for peace for him and for himself. And then second thing he asks for is that if everything is perishable, what else is there? So Yamraj laughed. He says that most of the even great sages cannot understand all these things. How are you gonna able to understand? But he says, no, you have to explain to me. And then, so at that point, Yamraj says that everything is perishable, but in everybody's body, there is one fire that never extinguishes. And that fire always keeps on burning. It never extinguishes. It never disappears. It's always there. There is something that is permanent in all of us. Such a beautiful knowledge these scriptures are giving us. And if given on their path, we can travel a long way and get a lot of beautiful benefits. So he says that, so the second boon he got is about the knowledge about the fire of insight that we have. And the third one, of course, he asks for the more detailed understanding and all that. So a lot of dialogue takes place between Yamaraj and Nachiketa. The one slok that really stuck me and it really changed my life was because he asked Yamaraj, he says, you are the Lord of death. How do you select who should die and who should not? So Yamaraj laughs and he says, okay, if you really want to understand, I'm gonna explain to you. And a beautiful slok comes, which became a central pillar for me. And that was, the slok was, he said that Shreyascha Preyascha Manushyam Etaha. Shreya and Preya. There are two things. Shreya means something that is good. And Preya means something that is pleasant. Shreyascha Preyascha Manushyam. Manushyam Etaha. It will come in front of Manushya. Every single second, every single time when we have to make a decision, we will have two things in front of us. One which will be good and one will be pleasant. Good will not be pleasant and pleasant will not be good. So what would a mature and a dhir person, somebody who is well settled in his intellect, what would he do? Shreyascha Preyascha Manushyam Etaha Tau Samparitya Vivinakti Dhiraha. Vivinakti means he differentiates. He tries to analyze what is good and what is pleasant. Which way should I go? He gives a little time to think it over. Shreyascha Prayascha Manushyam Etaha Tau Samparitya Vivinakti Dhiraha. And then what happens? Now there is a separation starts. How a dhir person will select and how non-dhir person, one who has not reached to his intellect, will select. So the second line says that Shreyohi Dhyanat. So uh, Shreyascha Preyascha Manushyam Etaha Tau Samparitya Vivinakti Dhiraha Shreyohi Dhiro Abhi. Shreyohi Dhiro Abhi Preyasi Vrunite. So it's a little tongue twister, but so Shreyohi Dhiro Abhi. Dhir person will select Shreyohi over Preyohi. Shreyohi Dhiro Abhi Preyaso Vrunite. Vrunite will put it into action. So he will select Shreya over Preya. And then he will benefit because he will select what is good and not necessarily pleasant. Shreyohi Dhiro Abhi Preyasant Preyaso Vrunite. And what will be a prayer, the mood person, the one who does not have intellect, the Sanskrit describes as mood. We consider mood as an insult, but for the scriptures, mood is just one who does not have intellect. And yeah, in practical speaking, we use it that way, but in reality, it's a very profound word that makes us realize that when you do not have intellect, you do become mood. So Shreyohi, Diro Abi, Preyoso, Vrunite, Preyo Mando. Mando means mood. Preyo Mando, Yoga Kshemat Vrunite. So you realize the word yoga and kshema comes back again. Because what happens is when we select an object of pleasure and we start running, all we are doing it is getting into this cycle of yoga and kshema. Yoga means all the efforts that you spend to connect to the objects of pleasure, and all the kshema is whatever follows after that because of that connection. Either you keep on getting lost in that connection the rest of your life, or you try to break away from that connection. Either way, you are lost because you're running. And it all happened because you lost your intellect and you connected with these objects of pleasure. So preyo mando yoga kshemat vronite. So manda, one who is manda without the intellect is continuously get caught into this cycle of samsara. So now we're going to do Tummo meditation, and we're going to realize how we ourselves went through our whole life without this intellect and where we got trapped. All right, so we're going to start Tummo meditation. As you all know, first finger and the thumb on the Vajrasan, and we're going to concentrate on each chakra, fully remaining aware, keeping your eyes closed. We'll start with Muladhara. And as you know, they will start with a small fire and will contract the rectal muscles and all the muscles when we hold the breath with the head down, locking the neck. Take a deep breath. When we hold the breath, we push down and pull up the rectal muscles, and the blood flow will be stagnant while we are doing it and until we release. Take a deep breath. And the head goes up. You feel the flow rising higher. Deep breath again. And relax. So Muladhara is where we are born. We have not developed the mental faculty yet. The mind is what is used to exhibit our vrittis and vasanas. And mind creates the likes and dislikes, good and bad, superior, inferior, white and black, this and that, top and bottom, rich and poor. All these differentiations start, but our mind is not developed yet. To us, the whole world is our friend. We are innocent, and we have not exhibited our faculty of the higher mind yet. We're going to go to Swadhisthana, 4 fingers below the navel. Take a deep breath. And relax. Watch the flow. Watch the heartbeats. Deep breath. And relax. Swadhisthana is where we are expanding. Now we have grown bigger. Now we know where to run after. We think we are smart. And it's all also fueled by the samsara, the surrounding people. Their minds are no better to train us in the right direction either. So we get lost in the sansar. If someone says something, we pick it up. If someone says something, we believe it, because our mind is like a sponge. It absorbs everything. And we also carry our own vrittis and vasanas intermingled with all these new impressions. Our mind is getting deviated from our center, from the soul. And it has firm convictions, firm beliefs, beliefs of hatred, belief of discrimination, beliefs of love, excessive love, objects of pleasures. We start deciding, and that's where we're going to spend our energy and the rest of our life. So we're running, thinking that the pleasure will be in those objects, whether it's money or fame or sex or friends, recognition, big houses, big cars. We're spending all the extensions of our life, and we're running and running, thinking that more and more pleasure we have to accumulate. Take a deep breath. Relax. Watch the flow going higher. Every time we're running, we never realize that it's our inner desires that we have modified our consciousness to form these desires for such and such object. And that's why when we get that object, we are very happy. It's like a lock and key phenomenon. Nobody gets happy from the object of pleasure for no reason. Their mind is psyched up for a long time for that. And that's how it keeps on going. Then before you know, that object becomes part of your daily life. Take a deep breath. And relax. All the years we studied, if somebody asked us, what do you want to be? And we'll say, whichever makes me more money. Simple and straight answer. And I get this answer from a lot of teenagers. Money becomes the object. And rightfully so, we need money to survive, to have necessities in daily life. But we were thinking the money will bring us the pleasure. But the running for the money becomes the day-to-day life. We never stop. Where is the pleasure? Next higher and higher level keeps on going. Intellect is not here to guide us. Intellect is gone. Those objects of pleasure has killed the intellect. It doesn't exist. Our connection with the Vishuddhamaya Kosh is gone. So we are only in the lower koshas. Take a deep breath. Fire has risen to Manipur, which is the central assimilation of the food, the energy, the power that we generate, so that we can make the body function and achieve more and more. We are blinded. All these objects of pleasure are centered around only one biggest object of pleasure, the body. All the pleasures are connected to the 5 sense organs of the body. So our identity, the ego, which is centered around the body itself, is also the result of loss of intellect. When you don't have intellect, you don't even realize, I am not this body. But we are far from the truth. We are in the process of expanding our empire to feed the one king, and that's our body, which is the seat of 5 sense organs. Just to stimulate and for the pleasure of those senses, we keep on working, running, acquiring, hoarding, competing, greed, anger, all these things we have created as weapons to achieve more and more and more. Take a deep breath. Relax. The fire is up to Manipur. The abdominal cavity is burning. Legs are burning. Take a deep breath. And relax. Rising to Anahat, the heart center. This is where we set up more and more connection, love, affection for everything that we consider that we own. These are my people. These are my family, my children, my house. All those subtle connections are set up in our minds. And all these things, along with the body, creates the ego, which is the seat of the biggest illusion. But there is no clarity because intellect is gone. Intellect could have helped us to decide what is right, what is wrong, but we don't have that wisdom. We have suffered a lot also. Experiences of the life can teach you, but who is there to learn from it? One who learns can rise higher. One who doesn't, he perishes. Buddhinasha pranashyati. But that's how the life goes. So at the right moment, right decision is what is guided by fire of Nachiketa. Nachiketa worked so hard to bring out the secret out of Lord Yam, that there is something within us which is not perishable at all. And the way to reach there is to develop your intellect. And he gave us the beautiful sutra. In your life, you will have two choices, good and pleasant. Good will not be pleasant, and pleasant will not be good. And whoever selects pleasant over good becomes the victim of Lord Yam. Now you see how far the truth is. How many people dying of heart attacks, diabetes, lung cancers, oral cancers, so many addictions, so many diseases. It's all because they chose pleasant over good. In my life also, this slok played a major role. This was the time when I was running 5 o'clock, 0 degree outside. Staying in the bed was pleasant, but running outside was good. So just because it was good, I kept on selecting good and kept on going. Every day, this slok was my major strength. I kept on running just because it was good. Not that I was a big runner, not that I cared about it too much. I never ran in my life. I kept on running because it was good. And lo behold, down the road, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, then I ran my first marathon. And then I never stopped. And then I kept running 6 marathons. It all started with one slok because I chose good over pleasant. The pleasant is the life of negativity. It draws you into sansar. All this yogakshema cycle is an illusion. This illusion itself is negativity. Whenever you go towards these objects of pleasure, you're going into negativity. The goodness, the shreya over prayer, shreya comes from the positivity. Whenever this is how we sing asatoma sadgamaya, take me from the untruth to the truth. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya. This is darkness. Going into the sansar, running after objects of pleasure is the darkness. But the light is led by the intellect. You decide. So at this point, we're still connected with everyone, thinking that this is all the life is about. Take a deep breath. And relax. We go to Vishuddha Chakra, located in the neck. Vishuddha Chakra is where now we are building up. Our nature has become that of anxiety, regrets, and lot of sufferings because of our attachment to the past. We cannot forget our mistakes. We are worried about future. What if we do this? What if we do that? It's our ego that we are attached to. And this ego is creating all these anxieties and sufferings within us. And now we are coming to the surface that this is not the way the life should be. Take a deep breath. And relax. So Vishuddha Chakra is the time when the transition starts happening. Vijnanamaya Kosh starts coming into the picture. The outer edge of the Vijnanamaya Kosh is the intellect, and the other end is the bliss, the infinite bliss. But little bit glimpse starts coming in through the intellect. If our intellect is not totally lost with various objects, we may have some intellect left, and who knows, at the right pious moment, words like this come to your head and you start mumbling over it, brooding over it, and it starts making sense. Then your life is done. Take a deep breath. The path to the right direction starts with three important steps: Shravan, Manan, and Acharan. Shravan is not just listening, gathering all the information, whether you read or hear or you discuss whatever information you Google, internet, whatever avenue you choose to gather the information. Then you do manan, you brood over it. You really apply your deep reflective thoughts on it. And then it starts making sense. And then ultimately comes into Acharan. Shravan, Manan, and Acharan. So whenever you get any great information, you brood over it. And before you know, it will become your action. Take a deep breath. And relax. So your intellect is sharpening. Intellect comes from connection with your higher self. Meditation. This is where you connect. In another sloka, in another chapter, Krishna says, Na asti buddhi ayuktasya. Yukta means connected. Ayuktasya means someone who is not connected. Na asti does not happen. Buddhi, intellect. Na asti buddhi ayuktasya. One who does not connect to the higher self does not get buddhi. Why do we need buddhi? To connect to the higher self. And higher self is what? Shanti. This is where the peace and the joy of life is hidden as a treasure. So Vishuddha Chakra, we get introduced to the intellect. The intuition comes in. Take a deep breath. And relax. We rise to the Agnya Chakra between the eyebrows. The path becomes clear. The clarity is becoming more and more dense. The pollution, the murky waters of sansar are receding. Now you have known these objects of pleasure are not worth it. It only takes you into these cycles of birth and rebirth, and birth and rebirth, until you never come out of it. That's like a mud. Now the lotus of consciousness has started within you to rise above the mud. So the intellect gives you that chance. At Agnya Chakra, it firmly gets established. The consciousness with its clarity gets established in your mind. And And this is where the pratyahara of Patanjali follows. Pratyahara is withdrawing your senses, because so far the senses were controlling you. Now you have re-established yourself to be the consciousness. And now the consciousness itself starts becoming enjoyable, that the enjoyment of the senses are not important anymore. So the withdrawal starts happening. You still eat, you still drink, but they are not your major source of pleasure, because the pleasure of consciousness is infinite. Take a deep breath. And relax. Now we go to Sahasrara, above the crown chakra. Take a deep breath. We are beyond the body. We are the consciousness. We have established our new territory, new life, new body, a body that never gets extinguished. It is the fire of Nachiketa. After seeing the dedication of Nachiketa, Yamraj told him, the first fire that was invented, it will be always called the fire of Nachiketa. This intense mumukshatva hidden within him took him to Yamraj and learned the secrets of life. And he shared that in Katha Upanishad, which comes in handy for all of us in every day. What is good? What is pleasant? Should I select good or pleasant? Give it a moment. Take a deep breath. The field of consciousness teaches you peace and tranquility. Your response times to the outside stimulations become slow. You do not respond right away. You like something, you eat, put it in the mouth. No. Now you have plenty of time because you are beyond time. All the material world was bound by the time. You are timeless. The fire that is within you is timeless. So you have plenty of time to pause like a deer, dhiro abhi. The one who is connected to his intellect will think, is this good or pleasant? Such a beautiful gift from little boy, Nachiketa. Last one. Take a deep breath. And relax. So analyze your day-to-day life. Every time you do any actions, you distinguish whether something is unpleasant, but it is good, then do it. If it is pleasant, but it's not good in the long run, don't do it. Select your own path. This is the ultimate freedom given to us by the consciousness. We have a choice to go down into the darkness, or we want to rise higher to the light. Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Good night.